Um, and finally, we'll review how to choose your website platform and provider. And at the end, we will have time for some questions, but you can feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A as they come to you. We will stop periodically to answer a few of them, and then at the end, we'll try to address the rest. I'm your host today, and here's a little bit of my background. So I have kind of a unique perspective when it comes to websites because I've been on both sides of the website building process. So I've been the client, the small business owner who needed a website and had someone build it for me. So I understand what it's like to be part of that process. And then later I got involved in helping build hundreds of websites for other clients. So I used to own my own business called Billings365.com, which was a website for events and things to do in Billings, Montana. My website was really important to generating revenue in my business. And I actually had someone build that first website for me. It cost me about $7,500, so it was a pretty significant investment at the time for me. My business grew. And as a result, I had different needs for my website. And so I actually ended up over, 10 years time, I had about 5 different websites for that business. So I've been through that process quite a lot. I also spent 3 years as part of a website development agency where we did custom WordPress websites for clients. And now at CardSetter, we have our own website platform that is powering hundreds of websites. So really robust experience in the website space. And I also have Randy here with me today, Randy Barber. She's going to help me with the Q&A. She helps me field the questions and answer a few of them. Randy, would you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for jumping on to geek out on websites with us today. I'm a fellow business owner as well. I'm actually a customer of CardSetter. So I have been through the process of, I attempted building my own website on Wix in the beginning. Didn't go as well as I thought it would. I apparently don't have an eye for design, and ended up hiring an agency to build it for me in WordPress, and then later transitioned to a CardSetter website. So we just like to share what we've learned across our own website journeys, and love to answer your guys' questions. So I'm going to be managing the Q&A, so drop any questions in the Q&A and we'll stop every few slides and answer those, or some I'll just answer directly in the chat. But thanks for jumping on with us today. We look forward to connecting with all of you.
Okay, so first of all, why is planning your website so important? So whether you decide to build your website on your own or you decide to hire someone to build it for you, planning is going to help you gain clarity on what you and your customers need from your website. So you'll design your website around your business's needs and your customers' needs. It'll help you prioritize what's most important. It'll help you make better choices for your specific needs. It'll help you save time and money, and it'll help you streamline the entire process so you can launch faster. So the key takeaway here is that it will save you time, frustration, and money in the long run. And again, that's true whether you decide to build it yourself or you work with a designer or developer to build it for you. And that brings us to our pitfalls to avoid. So we see a lot of business owners put the cart before the horse with a focus on like, what is their website going to look like before they've done any website planning. So you might start checking out, website designs and themes before you know what your website needs to do or what assets you have available to make that design happen. So oftentimes when we are looking at other websites or we're looking at design templates, there's perhaps professional photos in the design. And those photos often share like a nice color story. They all go together, right? And the photographs are sometimes making the template look great. But if you don't have that same photography, the design is just not going to look as good. And similarly, the design might have very specific places for copy and headlines. And so you find yourself like trying to come up with something to put in that space. And maybe you don't have, you haven't done your planning, so you don't have your copy ready yet. You want to do things the inverse. So you want to design your website around your copy and the assets that you have available and your needs, not try to make your business fit into a pretty template. Along those same lines is choosing a platform before you've laid out your plan. When you plan first, you'll have a better framework for matching your specific needs to the platform with the features that are going to work best for you. And same thing with choosing a designer or developer if you're thinking of that option. So if you contract a designer or developer before you've done your plan, that can be a big mistake. Because if you plan first, you can enter those conversations with your very specific requirements. That means that you'll get a better estimate from the professional, and your project will probably cost less and move along faster because you're providing all of the details up front. So they don't have to go back and forth with you on the planning process or, what content you have available because you've already planned it out. Okay, so now that we know why planning is important and we know what pitfalls to avoid, I want to talk about what we call a minimum viable launch. So in working with hundreds of business owners on their websites, I've seen projects completely stall out because the business will get stuck on a specific page or section of content for their website, or there's things they want for their website, but they don't have time to get to them right away. And you want to try to avoid this by focusing on a minimum viable launch point. So what is the minimum level of functionality and content that you need to launch your website with? For example, maybe you envision having a services page with pricing packages that are perfectly lined out. It lists everything that's going to be in there and you have a price set for that. But maybe you don't quite know what your pricing structure is going to be yet. So in the meantime, you could have, just a broad description of the services that you offer on that page and a form so they can contact you for an initial consultation. You can make that page better as you are able to, or as more information comes together, you can improve that page and change it later. So you want to take on the mindset that your website is iterative. It's going to grow, change, and adapt as you have new information available or as your business's needs change. Okay, so next we're going to get into the steps for planning your website. If we have any questions, we can pause for a second.
No questions on this part yet. We
Okay.
have some questions on domain registration, so we'll get into that once we jump into that part of the slides.
Okay. Okay, so let's get into planning your website. The next sections are going to go through the 4 main steps to planning your website. And this is going to include pages from our website planner, and that will be made available to you at the end of the presentation. So you'll get a link where you can get the printable PDF version or the Google Sheets version, whichever is your preference. So you can complete your planning in the workbook. When you complete your website plan, you'll be better equipped to choose the right platform, the right design templates, and to create your website faster. Or alternatively, you'll have a comprehensive plan that you can hand over to a professional if you choose to go that route, ensuring a smooth website building project with them. Okay, so planning your website. The first thing that you want to do in planning your website is outline the technical details and feature needs. So you want to take an inventory of any technology that you already use and consider the features and functionality that your website will need. And then you want to consider what tools you might need to help facilitate those features. So this is what that looks like in the planner. So you're going to log your business name, indicate whether you're building a new website or moving an existing site, log the website address and where your domain is registered. So whether that's at GoDaddy or Google Domains or somewhere like that, you can log that information here. This type of fine-grained information is especially useful if you end up working with a professional. They get a good picture of all of the logins that they might need to help, configure your website. And we will talk about domains a little bit more later. Okay, so then you want to list all your social media links on this page so you have those for easy access. And you can start thinking about the features that your website is going to need. On this page, we have a features checklist. So for example, are you going to blog? Are you going to have a download or freebie type of lead capture, enter your email and get this free resource type of thing? Does your website visitor need to be able to schedule an appointment with you? Are you selling products? Will you want to be able to accept payments? Do you have a membership program? Is there anything else that you can think of that your website is going to need in terms of features and functionality? So on this page, we have a section for payment processor. So if you plan to sell products or take payments of any kind on your website, you're going to need an online payment processor. If you already use one of the following, you can note that here. If you don't already use one, my recommendation is Stripe because it works with so many different tools. So that would be my recommendation. A lot of brick and mortar type of businesses use Square because they use it for their point of sale. So that's another option. And Square has different options for integrating with your website as well. Do you have an account already for your e-newsletter? You're probably going to want your e-newsletter sign up form on your website. And if you're going to do that type of marketing activity, then you're going to need an e-newsletter provider like MailChimp or ConvertKit or Constant Contact. So you can note that here. And if you don't already have one, but you know that you're going to want to do that with your website, hopefully this prompts you to start looking at those different e-newsletter options and start considering which one you're going to use. So then at the bottom, we've left room to describe any other specific software that you need your website to work with and any other features that are specific to you and your business. So when I talk about other software that might, integrate with your website, different businesses sometimes have different software that they use to run their business. For example, we have a contractor, a home builder that uses a specific software once someone becomes a client. They can log in and see how their project is progressing. And we added an integration on his website that allow people to submit inquiries, which goes into this system. And it also provides a login page for his clients to log in from his website. So that's one example of other software that, a business might be using. It could also be, there's a software called Honeybook that a lot of small solopreneurs use for their accounting and bookkeeping and project management. They have different integrations for your website. Some people use HubSpot for marketing and managing their contacts and things like that. So it's just a space for if you have anything like that that you want your website to work with, you can note that here. Okay, so if you're creating a website, you'll also want to track your website visitors, and you can do that with Google Analytics. And it's good to install your Facebook pixel right away as well, because if you do any Facebook marketing, then you're going to want your Facebook pixel on your website. You can sign up for both of those services for free, and both are really important when you start marketing your website. So Google will help you track your traffic, so how many people are coming to your website. You can set it up to track conversions, so to show how many people filled out your inquiry form or purchased a product or whatever that may be. You can see how many people are visiting your website from a mobile device versus desktop. So it gives you a lot of good information. But both Google and Facebook also allow you to set up retargeting campaigns. So for example, if you want to run ads to people who have visited your website but have not made a purchase yet, you can do that on Google and Facebook, but you do have to have those pixels installed from the start to be able to do that. So having all of these technical details in one place makes it easier to understand what services you already have, and what else you need to sign up for to power your website. So if you work with someone else, again, this is super helpful because they have your Facebook pixel, they have your Google Analytics ID right away. They don't have to ask you for that or track it down. Makes it easy to add to their website, to your website.
So Jessica, some people are asking, what are pixels?
Yeah, so a pixel is like a bunch of code. To you, it'll look like a bunch of gobbledygook. It's code that goes into what we would call your global site code, so that it loads on every page of your website, and then it sends data back to like your analytics account, so that your analytics account can track all that activity on your website.
Perfect. Do we want to stop for a few other questions?
Well, I'm just about to get into domains. So if most of the questions are about domains, then I'll talk about domains, or
Yep.
okay.
I jumped the gun.
Okay, so one quick tip while we're on this section, we really recommend that you register your own domain for your website. And I would suggest that you do that through Google Domains or GoDaddy. There are several other registrars that you can use, but these ones are easy and straightforward. So registering your own domain. So your domain is your .com, .org, whatever your address on the web is going to be. Sometimes you can register your domain. So like if you sign up for a subscription-based website software like Squarespace or Wix or something like that, sometimes they will have the option to like purchase your domain through the software. And similarly, if you work with an agency, they might suggest that they register your domain for you. You want to avoid this because it makes it hard to switch providers or platforms later. So your domain is a really important business asset that you want to protect and have in your own account. If you register your domain through like a software like Squarespace or Wix or something like that, if you decide you want to use a different platform later, it makes it more convoluted to detach your domain from that account. And then on the other side of things, on the agency freelancer side of things, if they register your domain for you, then your domain lives in their account at GoDaddy or Google or whatever. And if your relationship goes south with that provider, and I've seen this happen more times than you can even imagine, sometimes the business owner then has trouble getting a hold of the freelancer to turn over their domain. The freelancer just stops returning phone calls or emails after a relationship goes south or something like that. And so it can really cause a lot of trouble for you later if you don't just register it from the start. So I recommend, like, as soon as you know what your business name is going to be, go see if the domain is available or something related to it or something that you want to use for your website, and go ahead and swoop it up. Okay, do we have questions about that I didn't address in that section?
So Linda asked, how do I change my business email that is currently a Gmail to a .com?
Yeah, so wherever you register your domain, so if you're already using Gmail, then Google might be a good option for registering your domain. If you register your domain at Google Domains, then they have a process for setting up your email at that domain. So Linda at whatever your .com is. And GoDaddy does also have an email service as well. Personally, I like using Gmail for my email client. So Google is generally my recommendation. And if you already have your domain registered, you can go in and set up your domain, your email at that domain. And if it feels complicated or anything like that, you can find people to do it for you really affordably on Fiverr or Upwork or services like that. And we at CardSetter, we do help our customers get that set up when they register their domain.
And then one other question, what's the best payment processor for international payments?
Stripe would work internationally.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if the others, I would assume that Square and some of those others also work internationally, but I know that Stripe supports international payments.
One quick question on the domains again. If I did register my domain through Wix when I built my website, then I can ignore these mailing alerts that my domain is about to expire?
No, probably not. I would check in on that. I'm not sure the mechanism of Wix at one time. I believe your domain was still registered through Google Domains, but it happened through your Wix account, or maybe Squarespace was like that. Personally, I would try to detach that domain from the Wix account and get it into, like, transfer it into a Google Domains or GoDaddy account just for simplicity. But yeah, I'm not exactly familiar with the Wix interface on how to manage your domain once you've registered it in Wix. But no, I wouldn't ignore those. I would definitely make sure that your domain is up to date, or you could risk losing it.
Okay. And just a reminder, if you guys could drop your questions in the Q&A instead of the chat, it's a little easier for us to make sure we don't miss your questions.
Okay, business info. So in this section, we're spending time on the description of the business, the ideal customer, and defining the exact action that we want our website visitors to take. So you'll begin with your general business description. So what does your business do? What products and services does it provide? And then next, you're going to describe your ideal customer. So this is pretty important when it comes to your website, because we're thinking about who the website is for. What are their needs? So I like to use this fill in the blank statement to think about that person. As a type of person, I want some goal so that some reason. So you would fill that out from the perspective of your ideal customer. So for my business, CardSetter, I would fill this out as a small business owner, I want to spend less time building and administering my website so that I can spend more time on revenue generating activities in my business. For a financial planner's ideal client, they might say something like, as a busy 30-something, I want to invest in my future so that I can retire with a home on the lake. So when we describe who our customer is and what their desires and needs are, it helps us design our website and our copy around their needs. On this page, we also have room for your key benefit statement. So now that we've written our ideal customer statement from their perspective, we want to write our key benefit statement as, why is our business the best choice for that ideal customer? So for our financial planner, that key benefit statement might be something like, Lee Humphrey takes the overwhelm out of financial planning. He'll help you take simple steps to achieve your big dreams, beginning with just 30 minutes of your time to get started. So we're trying to write that key benefit statement in a way that speaks back to, those desires that we've listed in the ideal customer statement. Okay, so next you want to list out your main product and service categories with a simple description for each. So this is going to be really important for easy reference when you start planning out the content and organization of your products. And then what is the primary action that you want your website visitors to take? So that's going to be different for each business. You might want your website visitors to request a quote, sign up for an initial consultation, buy a product, sign up for your free resource, or any number of things, um, you know, specific to what you do. So, what is the number one thing that you want your website visitor to do when they reach your website? This is your call to action, and you want to plan your website around helping your visitors take that action. Okay, so any questions about the business info, ideal customer, key benefit statement piece?
Not exactly on that piece, but we do have a question where you mentioned Fiverr and Upwork.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell us a little bit about these platforms and how we would use them?
Yeah, so Fiverr and Upwork are freelancer marketplaces. So you can find people who offer a variety of different professional services on those platforms. And it makes it easy to hire them for like one-off jobs. So for example, they have all kinds of different services, but like Fiverr, you can find people who will do data entry, internet research, uh, as I mentioned, configure your domain and your email address, design a logo, all of that kind of stuff. Fiverr is set up more like, I need someone to do some internet research. You put in that search term, you find a list of people, and you can hire them right there and put in your project details and start working with them. Upwork is more like you list your requirements of your job, and then freelancers reply to that job. And I would say Upwork certainly has the little one-off tasks that you can hire people for, but I would use Upwork for like maybe larger, longer term type of tasks, and Fiverr for like quick little tasks where, you know, maybe you wouldn't envision a long-term relationship working with that person, that you just need something quick done that's out of your wheelhouse. And there's all kinds of other services. I know a lot of people are looking for affordable ways, to get a logo and things like that. There's services like 99 Designs, for example, for that kind of thing. So lots of options and opportunities on the web. Of course, there is some benefit of, hiring a graphic artist locally or things like that, especially if you like to be able to meet with someone in person and talk through stuff with you as well. So just depends on what your preference is and how you like to work.
And Fiverr is spelled Fiverr.com is where you'll find Fiverr. And thanks, Chance commented that they couldn't get by without Upwork. So looks like we have a lot of people on here that use those services as well.
Yeah. Okay. So now that we have our technical details outlined, we've defined our business, our customer, and the action that we want them to take, we can take an inventory of our assets. So in this section, we're compiling the graphics that you have available, along with any copy that you use frequently to market your business. And we're going to organize all of that in one place so that it's easy to access. So if you work with a designer or developer, this is really helpful because you can send them all of the assets that they're going to need to create your design. And if you build your own website, it's nice to have all of these assets in one place. So on the worksheet, you're going to include your tagline and any other marketing copy that you use to market your business. You'll check off any of the assets that you have available. So if you have a logo, if you have a freebie or download that you're going to use, don't check it off if you don't have it all have it already. Headshots and photos, any of these visual assets that you have available. Do you have a video for your website? Just take an inventory of what you do have. You can also note any color preferences or requirements for your brand, along with, any font requirements. So, if you have a brand guide, uh, if you had a logo designed, somebody that designer might have provided a brand guide to you, for example, that has like what fonts and colors and things like that. If not, that's okay. You can set your color and font preferences if you have those types of preferences, or you can leave it blank if you want to leave it up to, a professional that you're working with, for example. And then I provided a space for a link to those assets. So what I would do is set up a Google Drive folder or Dropbox folder. Those both have free plans up to some storage limit. So really easy to use. Drop all your files in one place, and then you'll have them easy to access yourself. Or if you work with somebody, you can send them that link and they have everything they need to get started. And again, it removes that going back and forth of them asking you for your logo and photos and things like that. You can just provide it all up front. Okay. Last step in the planning section. So this is actually probably the biggest step though, and that is your website content. So when we talk about content, this is more than just copy or the words and text that are going to go on the pages. It really starts with prioritizing information and clearly communicating with your audience. So it includes how content will be organized on the website and what type of content you need where. So, images, videos, written text, etc. So it can be really helpful to think about your content in a flowchart or what we call a sitemap. So you start with your homepage, and most every website also needs an about page and a contact page. But the other menu items are going to be highly reliant on your business, but it's a good idea to plan them out. So go back to thinking about your ideal customer and their needs. What information do they need to be able to find quickly on your website? So this can be a good way to prioritize what should be in your menu. So services, shop, pricing, those are, very common menu items on websites, but it might be more specific for your business. So, for example, if you are an accountant, um, you might have a menu item for tax preparation and another menu item for bookkeeping. If those are your popular services and people are coming to your website, you might just put those two items in your menu right up at the top instead of having services and then make them go to bookkeeping and tax preparation. Um, just an easier, faster way to get to information they're looking for. So once you have created an outline for your content, you can start planning your content on your website and writing your copy. A good place to begin is your homepage. So what is the most important thing that your website visitor needs to see when they hit your website? So this is a good place to look back at your ideal customer, your key benefit statement, and your call to action. These should be the priority on your homepage. And then you want to support those three things on your homepage and throughout the rest of your website. So looking at a few examples, here is Brit Smart Security's homepage above the scroll. And it says, let us keep your family secure and connected. And then smart security and home installation in Columbus and Medina, Ohio. So, hey, they're in your neck of the woods. And the call to action says, contact us. So right away, this website is communicating the key benefit, which is keep your family secure and connected. So Brit offers home security and smart home connection services. So this makes a lot of sense, right? And they're helping to define the target customer, which are families in the Columbus and Medina, Ohio areas. Now, that doesn't mean they're excluding, single people who want to keep their homes secure and connected. It just means that Britt knows who their core audience is, the people who are most motivated to, hire them to keep their home secure. And so that's who they're speaking to with their website. This is another one for a book called Midway Bravery, which says a book for anyone who appreciates the greatest generation's wartime sacrifice. So they're clearly speaking to World War II history buffs. So we understand who the book is for, and then they have a call to action button, purchase the book right up at the top. And then, they're supporting that call to action down below as well. It says order your signed copy. So making it easy for people to take that desired action. Okay, and then one more, let's look at Go Unite. This is Randy's company. So Go Unite is a member-based event organization. So right towards the top, she has completely planned events, and her support copy says, we bring people together who like to get out, try something new, meet new people, reconnect with old friends, and really experience all Billings has to offer. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our completely planned events. And then she's got a fun graphic with her call to action that says become a member. So visitors understand exactly what Go Unite has to offer early on when they hit the website. Okay, so now that we've considered what should go on the homepage, we'll dig into the rest of the site. Did anybody have questions about, those examples?
Not specific to the examples. Really, the question we got is it possible to incorporate a short video on a website? So if you want to talk about the video options, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of different ways to incorporate video. So on this website, for example, it's hard to show in a slide presentation, but Randy has like background video going of, people having fun at Go Unite events and things like that up at the top. So it just kind of gives an ambiance of what to expect. And then I believe your website also has embedded videos on like how the process works and things like that. So yes, you can absolutely incorporate video, and definitely encourage you to if you have those assets available. I would say, don't postpone like launching your website to get a video put together. Get your website up and planned and the minimum viable launch up, and then plan to add a video later if you don't have one already. But yes, video can be a great way to, provide customer testimonials, tell people how your product or service works, provide ongoing resources like in the form of a blog, but instead of written content in video format. And there's a number of ways to add video to your website. One of the easiest ways is to host the videos on a service like YouTube or Vimeo or something like that, and then just embed that video on a page on your site.
And as far as making video, I mean, if you're hearing this and like, gosh, I need to hire someone to make video. I mean, video production is definitely a spendy thing. And so
Yeah.
with all of mine on my website, we made them ourselves. We shot just some little video at events, like people, like this, a screenshot of the guy playing the guitar. There's just a video of him, kind of close up and then zoomed out of him playing on the guitar. And all of them were shot on an iPhone. And then videos of people, and then I pieced them together with just the free video editing software that came on my HP computer. If you just search down in your corner like video editing, there's free software already on Windows computers. And then I also really like iMovie. I did them on my phone, and then it's got fun intros and music, and you just plop in little video clips. And it puts it together in a pretty professional looking video. So those are some great options for getting started, so don't get held up on getting professional video done. I really like iMovie and your free video editor. So iMovie would be if you have a Mac. iMovie comes on those ones free.
Yeah. Excuse me. Okay. Let's see. Let's get to the next section. Okay. So next you're going to do a detailed outline of your products and services with descriptions for each. So earlier we created kind of a general category overview of products and services to kind of help you organize like sections on your website. But this is going to be like your detailed products and services. So if you were doing e-commerce website, for example, this would be like your inventory list. So, all the products, their descriptions, their price, uh, any other variables or things like that that are associated with the product could be here. And then on the services side of things, the detailed services, like what can people hire you for? It should be listed here. Even if you did like, book me for speaking engagements, I would put that type of service on this page. Testimonials. This is a good time to start collecting some testimonials from any existing customers that you have or anyone you've worked with or helped in some way related to your business. Start collecting testimonials. If you don't have any yet, totally understandable. A new business, sometimes you don't have your first customer yet. That's okay. But hopefully this prompts you then as you start working with people or you start getting those customers to start asking for testimonials so you can add those to your website. What I like about testimonials is, we talked about the key benefit statement. So why is your business the best choice for your ideal customer? Well, testimonials are great because they probably are your ideal customer, and their testimonials sometimes include some of your key benefits. And so you're communicating that key benefit through words that come directly from your ideal customers, and they just kind of help show other people like this person who is like you liked this service and got tremendous value from it. So a good thing to start collecting as soon as you can. And then in the planner, we have several generic worksheet pages for your content. So you can start with the main page that would be associated with the menu item and then plan out any sub pages that would go under that menu item. So when we talk about menu item and then sub menu, in the example of the accountant, we said, accountant could have a services page, and then under that services page, they could have tax preparation and bookkeeping, for example. Or they could choose to just have tax preparation and bookkeeping in the main menu. So those would be main pages. So it's just kind of up to you and how you envision, people getting to that information. But the planner allows you to have, a main page and sub pages that go under it. About section. So most websites should have an about section. This is a place to talk about you in your business. It could also house, information about your team if you have multiple people in your business. So this is where you can build trust with your customers by describing your business's background and experience. The contact page. So you want to make it really easy for your customers to contact you. So every website should definitely have a contact page, but you don't have to stop there. So if you think about your ideal customer and how they would want to get in touch, you may want to offer the option for them to, reach out on Facebook or Instagram Messenger, for example. So you want to be available wherever they are. And this is where you can also include your business address, your phone number, your hours. So you want to include that on your contact page. But if you do have a physical location, like if you're people come to your location to do business with you, or you're a restaurant or a salon or a boutique or something locally, you might want to have that information on your home page as well, or like in your footer or header so it's on every page. Because a lot of times businesses like that, the main reason people are visiting your website is because they want to figure out where you're located, what your hours are, and that type of information that helps them come make a visit. And then the other thing I would note is I personally have a pet peeve for websites that only have a contact form and no other way to get in touch with the business owner. I understand the logic behind it is because you don't want a bunch of spam, but you also don't want to lose out on making a sale or, working with a potential client or customer. Um, I don't know about all of you, but I've been to websites where there's only a contact form. I fill out the contact form and I have no idea if anybody got it or is going to respond. And I have no way to reach back out to that person. And so you don't want to make it difficult for your customers to get in touch with you or potential customers to get in touch with you. You want to make it easy. And if it really becomes a problem later, you can start adding friction and taking away contact options. But ultimately, you want people to be able to get in touch with you. Okay. Okay, so once you get through all of that, you have successfully planned out your website. It's a whole lot to think about, but I hope the framework will help you simplify the process. In the next steps, I will talk briefly about platforms and providers. Do we have any questions regarding content or anything like that? Contact forms, Randy?
Yeah. What is the optimal duration for a website video?
Oh, well, that's really going to depend on the goal of the video, right? So uh I would think of it in the context of like what I'm trying to communicate and then the mindset of the customer as they're going to watch it. So for example, if I was going to have like video testimonials, for example, I would probably have those at like 15 to 30 seconds max. Because I don't envision that someone wants to spend a lot of time watching a video testimonial. Um, but for example, if you were going to have videos on your website that provide I'll give you an example. I was on a website that showed me how to cut people out in Photoshop, like how to get a good cutout of a person out of a photo. That video was probably 5 minutes long, totally willing to sit there and watch it because I'm trying to figure out how to solve this problem. That's really good content for their website too, because it keeps me on their website for a long time. Which helps their website stats and helps me become more familiar with the brand. So in that context, the longer video makes sense. If it's a marketing piece, like you're trying to sell something, I would say, I would try to keep it to a minute. But for example, on our website, we have a demo video, and I think it's about 1.5 to 2 minutes long because I just couldn't cut it down any shorter. But if I could fit it into a minute, I would.
All right. Can we speak on how we add login accounts for customers?
Well, that's going to vary. So when I gave the example for the contractor, he's using a certain software that's actually separate from his website that his clients log into to access, the building process for their home build. Randy, Go Unite. So we did a membership works integration that gives her a bunch of tools to manage her events. So she can take event registrations, sell tickets, see everyone who's registered for a specific event, print off her registration list so she can check people into her event. And technically people visit her website and can log in to register for their events. But that login, while it's happening on her website, it's actually happening through membership works. So like at Card Setter, what we do is get a list of your requirements and understand what you're trying to achieve, like what they need to be able to do after logging in, and then figure out the best way to handle that. And oftentimes that would come with an integration. We've also done like gated content using an integration like that. So when people log in, they have access to content that they've paid subscription, for example, to have access to that content. And so that's done through an integration to to take those subscriptions, manage the logins, and set which pages they're allowed to access.
I think one thing to really think about when you're wanting a login section on your website. So when I had an agency build my website on WordPress, the reason my website was so expensive is because they built in this login section all within WordPress. So everything was done in WordPress, and I didn't really get a lot of like analytics and stuff. It just gave people the capability to log in and kind of RSVP for events. But when we switched over to Membership Works, it gives me this whole outside login for like $29 a month. And so I set up events and memberships and everything in there, and it gives me, information. It actually syncs with my QuickBooks. So all the data just syncs into QuickBooks for me. So looking at those third-party options instead of trying to build everything into the website with like WordPress or something like that is really a more cost-efficient and gives you more features and stuff as well, because the WordPress definitely wasn't going to sync with my QuickBooks, so we were hand entering ticket sales. And so I mean it could have probably built in the QuickBooks integration, but we probably would have been talking another couple thousand in development to make it do that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So part of that process of outlining your features and functionality needs is, considering what's the best way to facilitate those features and that functionality on your website. And sometimes that will come through the form of a third-party integration, where, the integration is provided and added to your website. So it feels like it's part of your website, but it gives you that cost-efficient option of having like a robust feature set for a more affordable rate.
And I am not a tech savvy person. I will disclose that to anybody. And so when we switch to Membership Works, we create events, and then in Membership Works, it just has the spot that says embed link. And I just hit copy. I go over to my website, I hit edit, and I hit paste. And it just pops up this nice little box where people can purchase tickets, and everything's handled through Membership Works. So when we talk about integration and installing it on your website, like it sounds like it's a lot, but it usually is as simple as copying a code that's provided for you and just pasting it onto the page you want it on. So a lot easier than it sounds.
Yes.
All right. What is the frequency to update your web content?
Yeah, so that's going to really depend on your business. So my recommendation, a lot of people put up a website and they just kind of leave it, right? But adding content to your website regularly, so a blog section, for example, or some kind of resources for your website visitors, helps your website get discovered online. So that content helps tell Google like what your website's all about, and it helps attract the right kind of website visitors to your site. But I know like blogging every single week can be really daunting and overwhelming, and you have a lot of other stuff you have to do. So my recommendation is to take blogging in batches. So I like to come up with like 3 to 5 related articles, all kind of around the same topic, but that kind of go together, that I know my ideal customer would like. Write those 3 to 5 articles, add them to your website, and distribute them. Get as much distribution as you can out of them. So have them on your website, post them to social media, include them in your newsletter, maybe run ads to them on Facebook or Instagram to get the right people to your website with a topic they would be interested in that's related to your business. Use up those 3 to 5 articles and then write the next 3 to 5 articles and take them in batches. And it just makes it more manageable, because then you can be like, okay, right now I'm going to write these articles, I'm going to get them done, and then I'm going to get them up on my website, and then I can go into distribution mode with them. So that's my approach. I just find it more manageable. Of course, if you have, the wherewithal to blog every single week, that's wonderful. It just, more often than not, that doesn't tend to be the reality for most business owners. Okay, do we only have an hour for today, or did we have a little extra time?
I believe we have an hour and a half.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Thanks.
So we got a half hour left. So we'll move on to talking about the platforms, and then we'll go back to questions.
Okay. Okay, so when you're evaluating different options to start your website, you first have to make sure that the platform, and when I say platform, that's, the technology your website's going to be built on. When I say provider, that could include a freelancer designer, someone who's going to help you create your website. So the first thing you have to do is make sure that the platform or provider can deliver the features that you need, that you've outlined in your website plan. And then you have to think about what you want to spend, because no matter what, there's a cost, and it's in the form of either your time or money. So just a few questions to consider. Will it grow and adapt with your business? So many of you are on the starting stages of your business. Your business is going to grow, it's going to change. You're going to get feedback from your customers that are going to make you change the way you do things, change your pricing structure, change your process of how you work with people, and your website's going to need to be able to reflect those changes. So how easy, once your website is up, how easy is it for you to grow and change it? Do I want to spend my time or money, and what is the value? So we'll talk more, but if you do it yourself, you're going to be spending your time, and your time does have value. Your time might be better spent, trying to get new clients or customers, working with your existing clients or customers, managing your employees, things like that. So it's something to consider. When you're evaluating the cost. Your time is a cost. And if you want to spend that time, that's okay. It's just something that I want to make sure you're making um, a very well thought out decision when you choose that route. Do the platform's features match your requirements? So now you've gone through, you've outlined all your features. You can go back to the different platforms and make sure that they can do what you need them to do. Are hosting and SSL and other essentials included? So hosting, your website has to live somewhere online. It has to be stored. It's made up of, digital files and things like that. It has to be stored somewhere. Subscription-based services like Cardsetter and Squarespace or Wix include hosting. An SSL. So at Cardsetter, for example, an SSL comes on every website. That's a security layer on your domain. Other subscription-based products may include that. If you work with a freelancer or agency, that's likely something you need to set up separately when you register your domain. Add an SSL certificate to your domain. It's just a security layer that's pretty important on every website, and is required if you will be taking payments or collecting any kind of personal information on your website. Do you have access to make edits to your website on your own? So obviously, if you build your own website, you have access to make edits on your own. If you work with an agency or freelancer, this can vary. So sometimes, like a professional agency will require that all changes go through them. So they just want to maintain, make sure it looks good at all times and things like that. So sometimes they'll lock down your access to make edits to your website. And then some agencies will allow you to make certain edits, change text and things like that, but won't give you full access. So you don't have full access to your WordPress, to all those sections in WordPress, for example. So it's not necessarily good or bad. It just depends on what you want. And just to make sure that you ask that question before you sign up for something or make a commitment. What is the cost of future change requests? So if you get your website up and running on your own, and then you get busy in your business, are you going to have time later to be the person responsible for the security, making sure it's functioning properly and all of that stuff, making changes later when you need to make changes? what is the policy if you choose a professional freelancer or agency? What is their hourly rate if you need them to do something and change your website later? So something to keep in mind. How is support handled, and is there a cost? So different subscription products are going to have different support support levels, probably in their different pricing tiers. For example, one might have email only support and 48-hour turnaround. Do you have 48 hours to wait if you need help with your website? So just something to note when you're looking at the different platforms. And then what happens if you want to switch? So I feel like this is a really important one. And it can be a little bit convoluted and not very straightforward when you're signing up for a product. So someday you might want to move your website. You might want to use some other platform that has a feature you've been waiting for, and your existing platform doesn't have it. So you want to move. Maybe you've invested all kinds of time into, growing your blog on your website, and you have hundreds of blog articles. Ideally, you don't want to re-enter all those blog articles one at a time, or copy and paste and go through the arduous process of manually entering all those blog posts. So how can you switch? What happens if you want to switch? At CardSetter, if somebody cancels and wants to switch platforms, we provide an export of all their pages, all their blog articles, all their content that they can import into a compatible other platform. Other subscription-based products have different policies for this. Some don't let you do an export at all. Some only let you export certain pages and not others. So just something to look into when you are looking at the different options. And same thing, if you choose to work with a freelancer or agency and they're hosting your website for you and all of that, ask them what their policy is for if you cancel, how do you get access to those files? Okay. Yes, Randy.
Go ahead.
Okay, I thought maybe someone had a question.
We do have questions on pricing with these options.
Okay.
So maybe we'll talk a little bit about pricing with each of these options, because there is a question that says, for a small business, can you give a ballpark average of the cost of launching a good website?
Okay, let's touch on that when we get to the end of this section. So, okay, so different option categories for your website. We've talked a lot about do-it-yourself and done-for-you agency freelancer. So, of course, on the do-it-yourself side of things, I'm sure you're all familiar. The key reason that someone would choose do-it-yourself is because it's typically more affordable, right? In terms of money. So you pay a monthly fee to have access to the software and build your website yourself. The downside of this option is that, as we mentioned, it's really time consuming, and depending on your technical skill level, you may or may not end up with a website that works or looks quite right. As Randy mentioned, she tried to build hers on Wix and wasn't happy in the end with how it looked or how it worked. So totally fine if you feel like you're a do-it-yourselfer and that's the right route for you. Great. Just, evaluate the, what's all entailed, not just now, but later in the option that you choose. So on the other side of the spectrum, you can hire an agency or freelancer to build your website for you. This still often happens on WordPress, though there are freelancers that you can hire for the other subscription-based platforms. The benefit here is that someone takes care of all of the technical aspects and the design work for you, and that saves you a bunch of time. The downside is that typically this has a higher cost than the do-it-yourself platforms, especially upfront. And then later, when you want to make changes to your website, you can incur a lot of additional costs because you need them to make those changes. Again, lots of people choose both of these options. So some people choose the agency freelancer option because they don't want to touch their website ever, and they're happy to pay an hourly fee for the freelancer or agency to do the work for them. While we're on this topic, I will mention my company, Cardsetter. We're one of those options that you can consider, and we're really more of a hybrid. So as I mentioned earlier, Cardsetter exists because I was one of you, business owner who was looking for a better option to run my website, something fast and flexible that would let me do what I wanted and that would grow with me. So as a non-technical admin, I wanted to be able to, make changes, add content, do what I wanted to do. And I was struggling with WordPress, my website, being on WordPress. And I worked at a WordPress agency. I still hated using it. So with Cardsetter, we aim to bridge the gap between do-it-yourself and done-for-you. We have a platform that's easy to use, so our customers can make edits and all of that. But we include initial design and setup, so our customers don't actually have to build their own website. So we try to get people set up on the right foot, but then also give them that flexibility to edit their website. And then we are a subscription-based product like the do-it-yourself options, and our monthly subscription includes some change requests. So you have the ability to edit, but you can use those change requests to ask us to do a change for you. Add a new integration, change design, things like that. So we sit in the middle of those two options. And then as far as pricing goes, ballpark, so it's really hard for me to ballpark costs because everybody's process, like when you're thinking of an agency or freelancer option, that can vary widely based on the freelancer or agency that you work with and what's included in their plan. So, I would guess that a very simple 1 to 3 page website could be as little as, $700 to $1,000 on the agency freelancer side of things, US based. And then of course on the do-it-yourself options, plans start for free on some of those options, but you have the ugly Wix brand at the top, which I don't recommend. It just doesn't look professional. So make sure you pay for a plan that's not going to have the branding right up at the top of your website. But those start as low as $15 a month up to, I think Shopify has a tier for large e-commerce that's like $300 a month. So those can vary. We sit in the middle. Our pricing is $49 a month on our start plan, and $199 design and setup fee, one-time fee. So that's kind of the spectrum. Of course, on the agency freelancer side of things, a really complex website, like Randy was talking about when she was going to have, the membership built in into her website. So it had a bunch of custom work in WordPress for the development agency. Those types of things can balloon from, $5, $10, $15, $20,000. So it just depends. Okay, any other questions on the platform side of things?
What is the easiest platform to write and sell books?
Do you mean, are you going to write the book in the platform, or do you just mean to sell books, like to market your book?
Let's go with market the book. And they're also wondering about integrated access to the book on the website.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so I'm not familiar with a specific platform that caters to that use case, but I would see that as gated content. So if you're going to be writing your book, I would see it very similar to writing blog posts. So each chapter is maybe, its own page or section of the website or whatever it may be. And then you're wanting to gate access to it. So like on Cardsetter, you would write the pages on, or write the chapters just as pages on your website. And then we would use a platform called Pico to take subscriptions and allow people access to those pages. If you wanted to manage your book that way. If you're talking about publishing where like your book is available on Kindle and things like that, I'm definitely not the expert in that side of things. You know, self-publishing your book on Amazon and things like that.
Can you touch a little on SSL? And Katie asked, which platforms have best SSL? Does SSL vary?
SSL doesn't really vary. It's a security certificate on your domain. So you can buy that SSL certificate in Google Domains or GoDaddy. I wouldn't do that right away until you've chosen your platform, because if your platform provides it, then you don't need to register for that. But it's just a security layer. So as you're like if you have forms on your website and things like that, or people are going to be entering their payment information or whatever, makes it more difficult to get that information, like for hackers to get that information if you have that security layer. So register your domain. Don't worry about the SSL right away. Choose a platform. If the SSL is provided, great. You don't have to do anything. If not, then register your SSL in your domain account. Or if you choose an agency or freelancer, they may help you with that. So they could help you register that if you need their help. The website planner. So here's the link for the website planner. And Randy, can you drop that in the chat for everybody so they have easy access? We can also send it. Jim, I don't know if you do a follow-up email with the recording, but we could send you the link so you could send that out with that as well.
Yeah, we do, and I'll put it in there.
I did just drop it in the chat box so people can click on it directly out of the chat box as well. And that lets you download this website planner that we just walked through. All right, we'll get back to some questions here. Along the lines of the SSL, how would we manage web security from hacking?
Yeah, so if you choose a subscription-based product, security should be included, but that can become partially your responsibility if you're like adding a bunch of plugins and things like that. So like if you sign up for a subscription-based service, like at CardSetter, for example, we manage all of the security and monitoring of CardSetter as the platform, and then also the website. So our customers don't have to worry about security. And I don't know the details of Wix and Squarespace and platforms like that, but I would assume that it's the same. If you choose a WordPress website, whether you build it yourself or you hire someone to build it for you, security is gonna kind of fall in line with ongoing maintenance. So who's responsible for ongoing maintenance of your website? So if you have an ongoing maintenance plan or hosting plan with the same people that built your website for you, they may manage security for you. If you hired them to build your website, but then you're managing maintenance, so you're setting up your own hosting and things like that, then you're going to be responsible for security. And sometimes the hosting platform that you host your WordPress website on has some security features included. So it can get real messy and murky depending on the option that you choose, but it is a good thing to understand how it's handled when you're looking at the different options and before you sign up with a specific provider.
Is it possible to redirect people from old websites to the new website with a different domain name?
Yep, you would set that up in your domain account. So you would set up a redirect. There can be some important things to do there as well. So like, you want to make sure any old pages are also redirected, any key important pages. So for example, if you had a pricing page and you anticipate that there might be some links out on the web to that pricing page, you want to make sure that that page is also redirected. So any key pages that were performing on the old website, you want to make sure redirect to the right page. But yes, you can also set like an old domain name to direct to the new website as well.
Do you recommend video testimonials or take a picture and type in the testimonial on a website?
I recommend whatever you think your customer would like more. So I would try to get an idea of like the type of people you're working with, and if you think video would work better or written. And in lieu of that, I would do what's simplest for you to put together now, and then, you know, add the other one later if you decide that video testimonial is important or written testimonial is important.
Can you spell that third-party software you talked about that was Pico?
Yeah, Pico, Pico.
Okay, and do you know if it's free or subscription based?
It is free. It doesn't have a monthly fee up to 500 users, but it does take 5% of sales. So you pay a percentage of your sales to use the service.
Got it. And we have a few kind of specific questions on a platform you would recommend. Which platform is best for selling music, like audio downloads?
Yeah, so you could do that probably on any platform, and you're probably going to use a third-party integration to sell the audio file. And we have done a website that has audio files on it. And I believe we used a SoundCloud integration to do that, but I don't know if that allows you to do the payment to the audio file. Do they need to be able to download the audio file, I imagine?
Most likely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's lots of ways we could approach that. Like let's see. So if you anticipate that they're most likely going to download like one file at a time, you could use a simple form that they fill out, they put their payment information in. After they pay, it takes them to the page where the download is available. So that would be easiest, simple, straightforward way to do it. You could also set those downloads up as like a product, like so e-commerce. So if you're like, oh, they're going to add this one to their cart and this one to their cart, so they could pay, and then the email that they get afterwards could give them access to the audio file. So there's a number of ways to do it. Like if you signed up for a card setter website, for example, we would understand, like we would ask questions about how you envision that working, and then we would create the right plan to make that happen. If you're going to do it yourself on a different platform, then you'll need to research those different options for, like, you know, map out how you want it to work, and then look for the different integrations that would allow you to do that.
Oh, Katie asked like my favorite question. How should you consider the mobile version interface of your website?
Yes, very good. So 55% of worldwide website traffic is actually on devices, and it can be much higher for many different websites. I mentioned my old business was a website for events and things to do, and 70% of our website traffic actually came from mobile devices. And so, you know, you want to cater to your largest audience first, I would say. And so on mobile, you know, there's certain things you definitely want to look at your website from a mobile device and not just from your computer, so you understand how people on their phones are seeing your website. You want to make important information easy to find, so you don't want to have this complex menu structure where people have to take multiple thumb trips to the menu, and maybe have, multiple drop downs to try to get to key information. You want to make important information really easy to find. You want to think about scrolling behavior. So we're all very, very accustomed to scrolling through social media feeds, for example. And, that scrolling behavior can be helpful in keeping your website visitor engaged and on your website longer. Um, so, thinking about scrolling to information, maybe thinking about providing additional information at the end of like your blog posts, for example, so you're getting people to other information that they might find useful. When I redid Billings 365, after realizing how many people were on the mobile device, I really designed that website to be more scroll focused. So people would scroll through and find more information, more content to consume in a mobile session. So a few things to consider on that side of things. And then as far as platforms go, like at CardSetter, our platform allows you to see the mobile view and make edits specific to the mobile view or the tablet view or the desktop view that don't affect the others. And other platforms do have that type of functionality as well. I will say WordPress in particular, if you build your own WordPress website or you hire someone to build your WordPress website for you, most of that responsiveness or mobile shrinking happens like through code and less through like visual editing. So for the non-technical admin, it can be more difficult and cumbersome. So you might consider a platform that lets you make edits to the mobile view.
And this was huge when I ended up switching my website over. I had Google Analytics installed on my website when it was first made, and I never really logged in and looked at it because there's a lot in there. But I recommend logging in and looking at it. When I looked at it, 86% of people who visited our website visited it through mobile. And so I spent so much time making sure it just looked perfect on a computer, because that's where you build your website at. And then you realize that only 15% of people are actually seeing it in that view. Most are seeing it on that mobile. And so that's where we really focused on making it mobile friendly over desktop view, which is hard to do when you're building your website. So it was really great when we could flip and look at what it looked like on mobile and be able to edit it in that view. We definitely saw conversions increase once we took that approach and really focused on mobile. What are software or platforms that we could use for products like a cart, checkout, taxes, and payment?
Yeah, so there's lots of different options. So if you're on WordPress, for example, lots of people use WooCommerce for their cart. That is an e-commerce option on that side of things. Shopify obviously is also a big e-commerce option. At CardSetter, we often do a Shopify Lite integration. So it allows us to put the Shopify cart on a CardSetter website. And then, but the reason people choose CardSetter plus the Shopify Lite option instead of straight up Shopify is often because they want our ongoing support, they want the design help, and they want to be able to organize their products more robustly. And we allow them to do that. So they can take advantage of Shopify's like shipping discounts and their fulfillment process. They have a really nice back end for fulfilling products. So that is one option. And there's a host of others. Squarespace and Wix have their own e-commerce option. Square, if you have, you're using Square for your point of sale, they also have e-commerce options. And then there's other options. If you're strictly doing digital products, we've done lots of different integrations for that as well. Using, as I mentioned, Pico, we use that on CardSetter a lot for digital products. And we can also do like an integration with Gumroad, which is a really popular way to deliver digital products. There's platforms like Buy Me a Coffee. There's so many different ways to sell products now, and lots of different options. And it just really depends on your specific needs, like how you want it to function, what you want to have happen after people make the purchase, things like that. So it kind of depends.
And we're just about at time, so we're going to take one more question, and then any other questions, feel free to email us directly. Jessica's email is right here on this screen for you guys, and I'll also drop it in the chat. But Liz asked, is there a code-free website editor?
Yeah, lots of them. CardSetter is a code-free website editor, so our customers log in, can add content, make changes, all of that on their website. And our editing happens right on the page. So you click edit, you can edit and add text right to the page instead of like in a sidebar that like shows up over here. But Wix and Squarespace and lots of different website builders are code free in the sense of like you can edit the pages and things like that without digging into code.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today, and definitely feel free to reach out to Jessica if you have any more questions or specific, if you have questions on, your specific platform or what your product is, and she can help to give you recommendations.
Yeah, I know I answer a lot of questions with it depends, but that's why the website planner is so important, is to really understand your specific needs. And then oftentimes the answer is based on those specific needs, the real answer. So it's hard to generalize sometimes when I know that you have a more specific idea in mind that's behind your question. So if you want to give me more detail, of course, send me an email and I'll do my best to answer your question for your specific requirements.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Thanks, Randy. Great presentation. And look forward to doing this again sometime with you. And to the attendees, great questions. Really appreciate you putting all those questions in there. And hopefully we'll see you at another SCORE workshop. And, again, feel free to, or not feel free, but please visit your local chapter's website and use those resources to help you start or grow your business. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.